Whenever you're ready, Michelle.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Monday and happy end of Women's History Month. Great to see all of you. Today, we are going to hear from a community of practice. But before we do that, I will turn it over to our Executive Director, Matt Bagushin, for some updates. So, Matt, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. And good morning, everyone. March 31st, 2025, here we are. Every Monday morning, 30 minutes, same time, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain, 8:30 Pacific. I'm Matt Bagoshian, Executive Director of AMCC, the nation's manufacturing community practice. We do these two weekly activities every Monday and then every Friday. This call where on Mondays where we have either a roundtable call to hear from you, stakeholders in manufacturing and the ecosystem of support of manufacturing, which includes many public, private, nonprofit organizations. It's the nature of where we are, this fragmented country where we got serious threats at home and abroad. We need better structures in this country to build trusted relationships, common narratives, strategies, and actions to get to those better structures. So the first part of the week, we start together. Many of you are BFFs for a long time, and we have many new folks that come on these Monday calls. And so we summarize kind of where we are right at the beginning for a minute or two before we do either the presentation part or the roundtable part. And that second part of the weekly thing, so the Monday thing, and then the second part, which is the Friday thing, that's the AMCC update, and it's because of you that thing is so strong. You know, you give us topics, events, activities that help bring our fragmented country together, right? So, like, you want to know what's happening on tariffs? Check it out. Fridays, AMCC update. BFF Petra Mitchell in Pittsburgh shared with us what they're doing on helping their ecosystem of support understand the new landscape. They got an infographic and a recorded conversation you can listen to. So this is like right on point. Right? Lots of other stuff in there too. You know, you want to find out about DoD is doing and what they're doing on workforce, and the Manufacturing USA Institutes. Check it out. August 5th through 7th, Mantech is honchoing a summit in Detroit. So show up. Let's lead. I mean, it's going to take all of us to come together. You want to find out about workforce. I'm just going through the update right now. You know, workforce issues in regions that have NSF engines, New America Foundation and SME. They've got a community college program. They've got an event in Arizona. I interviewed them on the podcast, Manufacturing an American Century, so you can listen to them. Yeah, it's complicated, but working together, we've seen some progress over the last decade, and we need way more. So that includes getting to the presentation today. Coming up in a little bit is leveraging work already done, right? So the federal government has invested in manufacturing going back to the founding. You know, Washington, Hamilton, big industrial policy, Lincoln, the same, the New Deal. We've had some recently, and we've got to meet the moment with our generation. We have all these federal investments with our labs and our, bottom-up interventions we've talked so much about on these calls. Today, presentation day, one of the topics is, how do we leverage the economic development ecosystem? We've shown over the last decade how manufacturing is the cornerstone of economic development. And we have, leveraged the existing federal investments around manufacturing with the MEP system, and then more recently, the Manufacturing USA system. But we have way more investments in economic development. So it begs the question, how do we leverage economic development work already in place? And that's why we've partnered with IEDC. So I was at the National Conference for International Economic Development Council, and we're working with them on various activities. And that's why we have our friends at NATO here to talk about EDA's longtime economic development district investments in this country. It's a long-standing one, strategic planning. Most of you folks know, but not everybody is really dialed in on this, what they've been doing, and their SEDS plan, strategic planning, a lot of good, hard work that's happened. But, like most of our fragmented system, it depends on the local players. And so You know, it's good in some spots, could be a lot better in others. So yeah, like I said, a lot of you guys know what's happening on EDDs in your neck of the woods. But Dion is here. NATO, National Association of Development Organizations, one of our many BFFs, and a fellow community of practice, can give us an overview in a minute. And I hope afterwards we can really just have a conversation about best practices in bringing these multiple efforts together for more impact. But before we do, we like to do every week, let's have a person or two or three quickly introduce themselves to just say where they are in the manufacturing ecosystem of support. And so just raise your hand if you haven't introduced yourself before, or if you want to reintroduce yourself. It's been a while. This
Hey,
is a
Matt,
good
I'll go.
opportunity to do that. Yeah, please.
Hey, everybody. Matt Fieldman. I've been involved with AMCC for a long time. New hat on. I'm at the National Semiconductor Technology Center, which is operated by NatCast. We are kind of the place to come for all things semiconductors. If you're interested in semiconductor workforce, if you're working in semiconductor workforce, please reach out to me. We'd be really interested in learning what you're doing, learning your best practices, and helping amalgamate and move the needle on our national semiconductor workforce. So I'll put my email in the chat, and that's the latest from NatCast.
That's awesome. Matt Fieldman, if you don't know Matt, you should get to know him. We're very grateful to you, Matt, for being on the AMCC Advisory Board. Claire Michaels, welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Michaels. I'm the Regional Manufacturing Career Specialist with East Bay Works, which is 4 of the workforce development boards in the East Bay here in the Bay Area. And I'm excited. I don't know how it took me this long to join these calls, but I've been hearing about them for a long time. And my work right now is regional work, trying to increase the capacity of the public workforce system to partner with the manufacturing sector. So very exciting, and hope to connect with some of you. Thanks.
That's great, Claire. Thanks for introducing yourself, and welcome. You know, we're free, open source community of practice, and looking forward to hearing more about what's happening there and your undoubted value add to what we're doing here. So yeah, Kevin, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, folks. Kevin Ross from Accenture Consulting. I just wanted to say I shared our latest thought piece on the future of manufacturing. So if you want to take a look at the link, I think it's worth a read. Very interesting focus in terms of automation, digitalization in the factory of the future. And I think it involved over 550 different leaders in manufacturing in the survey.
Thank you, Kevin. And using the chat. Thanks for speaking out and using the chat. Very useful on these 30-minute calls. We're all busy. We've got to not only strengthen the ecosystem of support, but deliver for every one of our organizations. And that includes private sector organizations. So thank you so much, Kevin. Steve Storkin, welcome. Yeah.
Steve Storkin, Executive Director of the Employee Ownership Expansion Network. New to the group. Thank you, Matt, for bringing us in. I represent 24 state centers for employee ownership across the country who are together in a network trying to provide outreach and education simply around the different forms of employee ownership. So probably hear from me in a couple of weeks. But thank you for inviting us.
Steve's top notch and has done so much work, right? We have 250,000 manufacturers in this country, right? And most of them are, you know, owned by old people that are looking to move on. Like, how is that transition gonna happen, right? So it's slow, and we need to speed it up, and we need to make it successful. So thanks so much for adding your value, Steve. So without any further ado, Dion Thompson DeBoli, let me introduce you from our BFF NATO. Welcome, and yeah, give us that brief overview, and then let's have a conversation here. Yeah.
Great, thanks so much, Matt. I'm just going to share my screen here real quickly. And then, oops, just want to full screen it. Are you seeing that all right, Matt?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Dion Thompson-Dabley. I'm with the National Association of Development Organizations, where I help to co-manage our Economic Development District Community of Practice. I'm joined on this call by Matthew Dolge from the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, where he's the executive director over in North Carolina. That's an economic development district. And he's going to share a little bit after I get to these slides about what it's like on the ground to run an EDD and how they are thinking about manufacturing and partnering in this space. So just to do like the really basic overview, I did see that a number of EDA folks are on this call, which is fantastic. You all will be a little bored, but if you're not familiar, economic development districts are regional economic planning organizations designated by the EDA, which is a part of the Department of Commerce. There are 405 of these today across the country. They cover 85% of all counties, and they are regional organizations that are multi-county in nature. So almost every EDD, with very few exceptions, is an amalgamation of counties, typically anywhere from 2 to 20 counties. Most of them are within a state, although there are a few, I think 6 by state districts, and that key responsibility that they have is strategic economic planning. The primary way that planning happens is through the CEDS, or the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. I like to describe the CEDS as both a process and a document. The process is in bringing together a region's stakeholders across the public sector, the private sector, NGOs, private citizens, just anyone who has an interest in economic development in the future of their region. The EDD will bring them together in a series of focus groups and meetings. They have an advisory board, and they put together this document that sets out that shared vision that comes through that community engagement process. The CEDS is both really broad, like what direction do we want this region to go in? What do we want our economy to look like down the road? And is also pretty specific in terms of priorities and goals that they hope to accomplish. The CEDS is updated every 5 years, so it's within that 5-year window typically is what those goals are written for. The practical benefit of completing the CEDS beyond just the creation of that shared vision and the alignment of stakeholders is enhanced eligibility for EDA grants. So the EDA really wants, when they're looking at grant making, they want those awards to reflect regional priorities, not just some one-off initiative that someone somewhere thought up and will disappear with their term in office or what have you. So it's both creating a vision and then getting the resources to execute on the vision is the idea of the CEDS process. As it relates to manufacturing, that's not a specific called out goal and the average CEDS. It's just part of a larger regional economic strategy. But the CEDS will highlight manufacturing sector priorities, particularly if you get involved in the CEDS process and you are pushing those out in front of the EDD planners. I just included this slide just to emphasize that EDDs are usually small, scrappy organizations that don't have deep subject knowledge, expertise in manufacturing. And as far as I can tell from some figures that Matt and David sent over, EDDs aren't particularly involved in this collaborative yet, although we'd love to see more connections because, of course, the potential is there. But if you do approach your district, they might not have that level of knowledge that, say, someone from I think I heard someone introduce themselves from the semiconductor workforce training space. Like that's not something that your typical district is going to be involved in, but they are interested in working with you and in your priorities in this sector. What do EDDs do? So most of them are part of larger regional organizations that go by a number of different names. I included regional development organizations, councils of government, planning and development districts, but there's like half a dozen others. And these, as part of these umbrella organizations, they do a number of things, particularly as it relates to assisting local governments, particularly regional or rural small governments, with services that are difficult for them to provide, or with just simple coordination between governments and counties in different places. These can include things like comprehensive planning. Most of these districts do have a planning staff. It's after all what they're good at, and they'll take on these projects for localities. But then they also work on things like grant management for projects of regional significance, purchasing agreements across governments, revolving loan funds for business development, and a number of other things. They do sometimes get rolled up with other regional organizations as well. So many of our EDDs are part of the same organization as that region's workforce development board or area agency on aging, which is kind of a, it makes sense for there to be alignments as all these organizations work at the regional level, not the local or state level. But it creates, I think, an interesting synergy where EDDs, despite being focused on economic development, have a pretty broad range of understanding of other regional issues that are going to down the line or presently affect a region's economic potential. So there's great synergy there. But again, as an EDD, the key economic development role is in convening and visioning with diverse stakeholders. And here I don't necessarily mean diverse as in socioeconomically or racially diverse, but more diverse as in interests, diverse in backgrounds, and what they bring to the table for economic development, thinking, planning, and execution. In terms of collaboration opportunities, if you're not working with your local EDD, with your region's EDD already, I'd encourage you to get involved in the CEDS process. That happens every 5 years, but it is updated every year. So if you get in touch with your EDD and say you want to be involved, they'd be happy to have your voice included, and to think about those priorities that you have in your sector, and that they can work collaboratively on through that process. The other great place that an EDD can help you out is in connecting you with regional stakeholders. So because of this long-standing convening role, as Matt mentioned, EDDs have been around for a long time. They've been in the same place for a long time, and they go out and try to meet with as many stakeholders in their region as possible. They will know who you need to know in order to meet some priority. So if you contact your EDD, they will know that voice, that person, and they'd be happy to make an introduction for you typically. The Economic Development District Community of Practice, which is what I work on, is knowledge sharing and research effort run out of a cooperative agreement with the EDA. Our audience is really focused on those districts specifically, and we bring them together for trainings and conferences and the like throughout the year. But there are a couple of resources that we can offer to external stakeholders, to this audience. The first is, if you aren't involved with an EDD and you don't know where to start, jump on our website, nato.org/EDD map. We have an interactive map. You can just zoom to whatever or search whatever place you're interested. Just click on the map and it will surface the name of the district, some contact information, a link to their website, a link to their CEDS, all that useful stuff. And then if you are having trouble reaching an EDD, or you have more questions about how you could work with one, whether they would be interested in hearing what you have to say or vice versa, feel free to contact us. You can reach me. My email address is here on the screen, or our contact page at nato.org/contact. We do check that regularly, and we're happy to make those connections for you. We have a pretty
Dion, can you drop your email in the chat? Also, Joe Meyer put the map link in the chat.
Perfect.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep, I will go ahead and share my information with you all here. And that's all that I have. But as I mentioned, I think I saw Matthew Dolge on the call a minute ago. Matthew, are you here?
I am. Thank you, Dion.
Thank you so much.
I know you want to have a discussion, Matt, so I won't go on for long. I will say that, an example for us, I am the executive director for the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, which is in central North Carolina, 12 counties. We have about 2 million population, so we're a mid-sized metro. We're a manufacturing region, so over 30% of our jobs are still manufacturing. We've always been a manufacturing region. Had several of the biggest projects in the country over the last few years, like Toyota with their battery division, Siemens preparing to make rail cars here, Boom Supersonic, which to me is like the worst name for a plane that you'd ever want to get on. But Boom is going to bring supersonic travel. back to passenger travel. And so we've got, great projects. We are pro-manufacturing here. What the EDD does for us, and we're a multifaceted organization, about 4 years ago, I think we did what is cutting edge and we saw was on the horizon as we joined our workforce and our economic development efforts into one. So we now have economic development and economic and talent development. Attracting and retaining workforce is huge for our manufacturers in this region. Training them is a huge issue for us. And so we brought those two pieces together. And so we can help folks all the way from strategy at the front end to grant writing for infrastructure, things like water and sewer, gas, roads, et cetera, through the EDD. And then we actually go in and do, for a lot of our current employers in manufacturing, complete analysis of their operations. They invite us in. We look at their competition from, what types of jobs they have, what the salary trends are in their jobs, what their work environment's like compared to others, and try to help them look at what they do as a manufacturer and help them continue to be competitive in that environment. Look at supply chain. We also, a lot of our EDDs are foreign trade zones or work with foreign trade zones to work on tax issues for some of our folks and import-export issues. So we do work across a broad scope of areas. Again, I think a lot of us are really involved with manufacturing, and that's on the front end, helping track projects and look at expansion, but also helping them continue to be competitive within the environment that we have. So I want to give you information, but I also want to realize you said a half hour, so I want to make sure if there are questions or folks want to have a discussion that we'll leave time for that. So I'll close, and then if you'd like me to expand on any of those things, I can certainly do it.
That's fantastic, Matthew, and welcome. Thanks so much for being, a part of this call, and hopefully your network becomes a part of, our calls regularly. If you wouldn't mind dropping your email in the chat, that'd be good. Ishan, welcome. You have a question?
Yeah, hey, this is Ishan Joshpura. I'm at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. I had a question for Dion and for others that work in similar area. I'm curious to know how your organizations engage with higher ed institutions for curriculum development. So I guess to hone in a bit, like I'm a chemical engineer by training, but I know that like the undergrad chemical engineering curriculum will get updated maybe every 10 years unless there's a particular department that's very proactive in changing that up from time to time. But I could see where we've got kind of a living through a watershed moment with implementing AI, and I don't know for certainty how those types of skills are being taught in education. Just wondering basically if there are trends that you see within industry where skill sets are needed or there's an emerging need, and how that translates over from like an actual learning standpoint.
Yeah, so Ishan, you're hitting an issue that really applies to every profession, right? Like, how do we update it as it relates to these emerging new technologies? So Matthew, I suspect you're engaged very much with the R&D that's happening in North Carolina. How, if at all, is that progressing, where these new technologies, and this gets back to these, long-term national investments. We have NIST on this call regularly, as they are today, and the Manufacturing USA Institute with the 17 new technologies. How do you think about that in the economic development, because it's so essential for workforce of the future?
Yeah, so for us, that's a key part of what we're doing, again, when we talk about keeping folks competitive within their environments. And so we will continually go in and help folks, one, look at new technologies if they want to bring in new technologies. Your EDD, in conjunction with workforce programming, can help them look at that, what they want to bring in, what training is available, and set up specific training programs around technologies that they want to bring in and use, and need to bring in and use to be competitive in their environments. We can even help write grants that will pay for the training time and moving their staff or bringing in new staff for those things. I will say from a North Carolina perspective, I think that we're behind a few other states in kind of that clustered approach to manufacturing training. Ours is broken down through the community college system. And so we work closely with our community colleges as we bring in employers to work in mechatronics, et cetera, advanced manufacturing. For example, we've set up at 2 of our community colleges specific training for the big Toyota project and working on the battery issues in Toyota. So I think working with your EDD and then with your workforce provider, you can get those specific needs taken care of and dealt with. And we do that across not just manufacturers, but all employers. I mean, so like we've got a hub here for regenerative medicines. And, you know, obviously that's a very specific training regimen for folks who are be involved with that. And so we can go in and look at those specific needs, analyze jobs, analyze new technologies, and then we'll bring in specific training to help with those things.
So here's a question, right? And the economic development districts, you've got a great framework, and the CEDS process is very well respected. But you know, to Dion, your point, right? You know, EDDs are small operations many times, and like any kind of organizational, you know, some of them just don't have that much capacity to help. How can other leaders in a region help their EDDs? Not good, you know, not so much the other way around, which would be great if EDDs can help these stakeholders, but it's really the other way around, because the folks in the AMCC community are leaders that you know, are making stuff happen. You know, talk a little bit about that, Matthew, and or
and I would say so. It's a mixed bag. I will say there are you will run into places in the country where an EDD is a standalone. In the Southeast, most of the East Coast, that's not the case. A lot of the organizations, the EDDs are actually housed in organizations that have pretty broad capabilities. And so I wouldn't take for granted that there's not a lot more to offer when you engage with the EDD. But even if it's just an EDD, they should have adequate funding. One, you know, they do the CEDS. They should always have adequate infrastructure to help with grant writing for projects, specifically EDA or other federal funding sources, to help you get the pieces you need to be successful. So what we call the little E economic development, which is, hey, making sure that the ground is fertile for development by making sure infrastructure is there, making sure the educational pieces are in place. They should always have those capabilities. Now, I will say that it's always great to have partnerships. We have ours with all of our local governments. I have 75 member local governments for my region. They're all part of what we do, and they pay dues to us. We help deliver services for them and help them to develop their strategies so they can be successful. So through your local government, that's another great tie to be involved with your EDD. I think as manufacturers, if you have associations, certainly reach out to those folks because I think, one, they should be coming to your meetings and making sure they're aware of what's going on in your sectors and that you have active where you are. And again, that's always say being in the room is the best way to get results. And if they aren't there, then you're likely not you're not taking advantage of some of the things that they might be able to offer for you.
Thank you, Matthew. Dion, any quick comments? We're at the top of the hour. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have much to add to that, but I just dropped a link to EDA's University Centers Initiative, which is another way that this broader ecosystem of economic development players get involved with higher ed and creating alignment between those emerging industries and economic development efforts more broadly.
Great. Dion, Matthew, thank you both. And thanks all of you for being on the call. We're at the top of the hour. Your time is valuable. Hope you have a great week. Staying on offense, and we'll see you on the AMCC update on Friday and next Monday. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you for the chance.